him in.
Hello, Mr. Hughes.
Mr. Lee, how are you? John. Mr. Hughes. Good day, Dwarf. James. Ben, how are you? James.
I have come to the conclusion that one useless man is called a disgrace, that two are called a law firm, and that three or more become a Congress. And by God, I have had this Congress for 10 years. King George and his parliament have galled, cullied, and diddled these colonies with their illegal taxes, the Stamp Acts, Townsend Acts, Sugar Acts, Tea Acts. And when we dared stand up to them like men, they stopped our trade, seized our ships, blockaded our ports, burned our towns, and spilled our blood. And still, this Congress refuses to grant any of my proposals on independence, even so much as the courtesy of open debate. Good God! What in hell are they waiting for?
Sit down, John! Sit down, John! For God's sake, John, sit down! Sit down, John! Sit down, John! For God's sake, John, sit down!
Someone ought to open up a window.
It is 90 degrees. Have mercy, John, please. It's hot as hell in Philadelphia.
Someone ought to open up a window. I say vote yes. Vote yes. Vote for independence. Say
Someone ought to open up a window.
I say vote yes.
Sit down, John!
Vote for independence. Say
Someone ought to open up a window. Go, go, go!
Too many flies, too many flies.
But it's hot as hell in Philadelphia. Can we compromise here?
vote yes.
Go!
Too many flies here.
Vote yes.
Oh, for God's sake, John, sit down!
Good God! Consider yourselves fortunate that you have John Adams to abuse, but no sane man would tolerate it.
John, you're a bore. We've heard this before. Now, for God's sake, John, sit down!
I say vote yes.
No!
Vote yes.
No!
Vote for independence. Say
Someone ought to open up a window.
I say vote yes.
Sit down, John!
Vote for independence. Say will someone shut this man up? Never. Never! Dear God, for one solid year they have been sitting here. For 1 year, doing nothing. I do believe you laid a curse on North America. A curse that we here now rehearse in Philadelphia. A second flood, a simple famine, plagues of locusts everywhere, or a cataclysmic earthquake I'd accept with some despair. But no, you sent us Congress. Good God, sir, was that fair? I say this with humility in Philadelphia, where your responsibility in Philadelphia. If you don't want to see us hanging on some far-off British hill, If you don't want the voice of independency forever still, then God, sir, get thee to it, for Congress never will. You see me piddle, twiddle, and resolve. Not one damn thing do we solve. Piddle, twiddle, and resolve. Nothing's ever solved in foul-fetid, fuming, foggy, filthy Philadelphia.
Someone to open up a window.
Oh, shut up!
Congress will now take up the petition of Mr. Melchior Meng, who's claiming $20 for his dead mule. It seems the animal was employed transporting luggage in service of this Congress.
The question then would appear to be one of occasion. For if the mule expired, not while carrying, but after being unloaded, then surely the beast job done on its own time.
Good God! They may sit here for years and years in Philadelphia. These indecisive grenadiers of Philadelphia. They can't agree on what is right or wrong, or what is good or bad. I'm convinced the only purpose this Congress ever had was to gather here specifically to drive John Adams mad. You see me piddle, twiddle, and resolve. Not one damn thing do we solve. Piddle, twiddle, and resolve. Nothing's ever solved. Towel, that in a fuming, foggy, filthy Philadelphia.
John, is that you carrying on? John!
Oh, Abigail, I have such a desire to knock heads together.
I know, my dearest, I know. But that's because you make everything so complicated. It's all quite simple, really. Just tell the Congress to declare independency. Then sign your name, get out of there. Hurry home to me. Our children all exist in happy. Little town keeps turning through. Little Abby has the measles, not coming down with flu. They say we may get small.
Madam, what else is new? Abigail, in my last letter I informed you that the king has collected 12,000 German mercenaries to send against us. I asked you to organize the ladies to make saltpeter for gunpowder. Have you done as I've asked?
No, John, I have not.
Why have you not?
Because you neglected to tell us how saltpeter is made.
By treating sodium nitrate with potassium chloride, of course.
Oh, yes, of course.
Will it be done then?
I'm afraid we have a more urgent problem, John.
Urgent, madam.
There's one king every word's twisted. Massachusetts Bay. Don't smirk at me, you religious pay. Listen to what I say. We've gone from Framingham to Boston, but we cannot find the pin. Don't you know that there's a moron setting stranger with a grin? Well, we will not make saltpeter until you send us pins.
Pins, madam. Saltpeter.
Pins.
Saltpeter.
Pins.
Saltpeter.
Pins.
Saltpeter.
Pins.
Peter.
Pins.
Peter.
Pins.
Peter.
Pins.
Peter.
Pins.
Done.
Done, John. Hurry home, John.
As soon as I may.
Don't stop writing, it's all I have.
Every day, my dearest friend.
Till then,
Till then, I am as I ever was and never shall be. Yours, yours, yours. gave you.
Right here, John, being preserved for posterity. Do you like it?
It stinks.
As ever, the soul of tact.
Well, she's no Botticelli.
And the subject is no Venus.
Franklin, you heard what I suffered in there.
Heard, of course I heard, along with the rest of Philadelphia. Lord, your voice is piercing, John.
God, I wish my arguments were. When, Franklin, when will they make up their mind? With one hand they can raise an army, dispatch one of their own to lead it, and cheer the news from Bunker's Hill, while on the other hand they wave the olive branch for happy and permanent reconciliation with the king. Why? Fat George has declared us a rebellion. Why in bloody hell can't they?
John, really, you talk as if independence were the rule. It's never been done before. No colony has ever broken from the parent stem in the history of the world.
Damn it, Franklin, you make us sound treasonous.
Do I? Treason. Treason is a charge invented by the winners as an excuse for hanging the losers.
Damn it, Franklin, I have more to do than stand around here listening to you quote yourself.
Oh no, that was a new one.
Franklin, we are at war.
To protect ourselves, nothing more. We expressed our displeasure, the British have moved against us, and we in turn have resisted. Now, our fellow congressmen want to effect a reconciliation before it becomes a war.
Reconciliation, my ass. The people want independence.
The people have read Mr. Paine's Common Sense. I doubt the Congress has. Oh, John. John, why don't you give it up? Nobody listens to you. You're obnoxious and disliked.
I am not promoting John Adams. I'm promoting independence.
Evidently, they can't help connecting the two.
What are you suggesting?
Well, why don't you let somebody else in Congress propose?
Never! Who did you have in mind?
Well, I don't know. I haven't really given it much thought.
You called for me, Benji?
Never!
Hi, Johnny.
Richard.
Richard, John and I need some advice.
Oh, it's yours if it's mine to give. You know that.
Thank you, Richard. Now, as you know, the cause that we support has come to a complete standstill. Why do you suppose that is?
Simple. Johnny here is obnoxious and disliked.
That's true. Now, what do you suppose the remedy is?
Let someone else in Congress propose.
Richard, that's brilliant. Wasn't that brilliant, John?
Brilliant.
Now, the question remains, who should that person be? The man that we need must belong to a delegation publicly supporting independence, and at the present time, only Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Delaware have declared our way.
Well, and Virginia, Benji. Don't forget Virginia.
I haven't, Richard. How could I? But, strictly speaking, while the views of Virginia on independence are well known, your legislature in Williamsburg has never officially authorized its delegation here in Congress to support the cause. Now, if we could think of a Virginian with enough influence to go down there and persuade the House of Virginia...
Well, damn me if I haven't thought of someone.
Who?
Me!
Now, why didn't I think of that?
I'll leave immediately. Hell, right now if you like. I'll stop off at Stratford just long enough to refresh the missus. And then straight to the matter. Virginia, the land that brought us our glorious commander-in-chief. George Washington will now give this continent its proposal on independence. And when Virginia proposes, the South is bound to follow. And where the South goes, the middle colonies go. Gentlemen, a salute to Virginia, the mother of American independence.
Incredible. We're free, and he hasn't even left yet. What makes you so sure that you can do it?
Ah. My name is Richard Henry Lee. Virginia is my home. My name is Richard Henry Lee. Virginia is my home. And may my horses turn to glue if I can't deliver unto you resolution on independency. For I am FFV, the first family of the sovereign colony of Virginia. The FFV, the oldest family in the oldest colony in America. And may the British burn my land if I can't deliver to your hand resolution on independency. You see it clearly, verily, everywhere Ali, socially, politically,
financially,
naturally,
internally, externally,
fraternally,
eternally,
the first family the sovereign colony of Virginia. And may my wife refuse my bed if I can deliver, as I said, resolution on independency.
Oh, can modestly, God help us.
Oh, he will, John, he will. They say that God in heaven is everybody's God.
Amen.
I'll admit that God in heaven is everybody's God. But I tell you, John, with pride, God leans a little on the side of the leaves, of old Virginia. You see, it's here a leaf, there a leaf, everywhere a leaf, here a leaf, there a leaf, everywhere a leaf. Look out, there's Arthur Lee, Bobby Lee, and General Nighthorse Harry Lee, Jesse Lee, Willie Lee,
And Richard H.
that's me. And may my blood stop running blue if I can deliver unto you resolution on independency. Yes, sir, by God, it's herely, verily. Come on, boys, go in with me. Herely, verily.
When do you leave?
Immediately, herely, verily.
When will you return?
Shortly, herely, verily. And I'll come back triumphantly. Herely, verily. Everywhere I'll leave forward. Oh!
That was the most revolting display I've ever seen.
They're warm-blooded people, Virginians.
Not him, Franklin, you. You and your infernal obsession with deviousness. If you would just ask him straight out, he'd been gone 30 minutes ago.
Cheer up, John. Our cause again is once again riding high, sitting straight in the saddle at full back gallop for Virginia.
And the women are serene, full bosom, full bosom, Benji, and everyone a queen. Because they're leaves, damn it, the leaves of old Virginia. You see, it's here a leaf, there a leaf. Come on, John, stick lively. Here a leaf, there a leaf. Everywhere I'll lead forward. Oh!
Yes,
I'm Dr. Lyman Hall, new delegate from Georgia.
I'm Andrew McNair, congressional custodian. If you didn't need anything at all, you just holler out, McNair, like you'll hear the others do, and there won't be too long to wait.
Where does the Georgia delegation belong?
They go about over in that corner, near the two Carolinas.
It's after 10. I was told that Congress begins at 10.
Oh, they'll be wandering in any minute now, sir, with old Grape and Guts leading the pack.
Who?
McNair!
Old Grape and Guts.
Ah, McNair, fetch me a mug of rum.
Mr. Hopkins, you'll be pleased to meet Dr. Lyman Hall,
I don't need a doctor, damn it.
new delegate from Georgia.
Oh, why didn't you say so? I'm Stephen Hopkins, old delegate from Rhode Island. McNair, 2 mugs of rum.
I'm afraid it's a little early in the morning.
Oh, nonsense, nonsense. Why, it's a medicinal fact. Rum gets a man's heart started in the morning. I'm surprised you didn't know that, Doctor. Now, speaking as the oldest man in Congress, I
Ben
have to...
Franklin's almost a year older.
Rum? Doctor, tell me, where does Georgia stand on the question of independence?
With South Carolina, of course.
Good morning, Eddie. Come and shake the hand of Dr. Lyman Hall from Georgia. Doctor, this is Mr. Edward Rutledge from whichever Carolina he says he's from. God knows I can't keep him straight.
A pleasure, Dr. Hall.
Your servant, Mr. Rutledge.
Well, Doctor, now you've met the long and the short of us. Mr. Rutledge is the most distinguished of all of us.
Except for Benjamin Franklin.
McNair!
Your rum?
Where'd you go for it, man? Jamaica?
Tell me, Dr. Hall, where does Georgia currently stand on the subject of independence?
I am here without instruction. It would about my own personal convictions.
And they are?
Personal.
Dr. Hall, the South speaks with one voice. It is traditional. Even more so, it is historical. Ah, into Delaware. Tria Junta in Uno.
Speak plain, Rutledge. You know I can't follow none of your damn French.
It's Latin, Colonel McKean. A tribute to the eternal peace and harmony of the Delaware delegation.
What are you saying, man? You know perfectly well that neither Rodney nor I can stand this little wart.
Gentlemen, may I introduce Dr. Lyman Hall of Georgia, Dr. Hall, Mr. George Reed, Colonel Thomas McKean, and Mr. Caesar Rodney.
Tell me, sir, would you, where do you stand on independence?
With South Carolina, it seems.
Gentlemen, I leave Dr. Hall in your excellent company.
Tell me, sir, would you happen to be a doctor of medicine or theology?
Both, Mr. Which one can you service?
Physician first, by all means, but nobody shall see about the other.
I would call you Higgins, sir.
I trust, Caesar, that when you're through converting the poor fellow to independency, that you'll give the opposition a fair crack at it.
You're too late, John. Once I get him, they're gone. Dr. Lyman Hall of Georgia, Mr. John Dickinson, Pennsylvania.
An honor, sir.
Your servant, sir.
Forgive me, Judge Wilson, but how can anyone see you if you insist on standing in Mr. Dickinson's shadow? James Wilson also.
Sir, an honor, sir.
Excuse me, please. Would you get out of my way? Excuse me. Pardon me. Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Good Lord, do you have the honor of being Dr. Franklin?
I do have that honor. Unfortunately, the gout accompanies the honor.
You're living too high again, eh, Pappy?
Oh, Stephen, I only wish that King George felt like my big toe all over.
Well, Franklin, where's that idiot
Come on,
Lee?
what's the wrong?
Has he returned yet? I don't see him.
Softly, John. Your voice is hurting my foot.
One more day. That's how long I'll remain silent, and not a minute longer. Strutting Pompjay was so short with some, he's had enough time to bring back a dozen proposals by now.
Tell me, James, how do you explain the strange, monumental quietude Congress has been treated to these last 30 days? Has the ill wind of independence finally blown itself out?
If you ask me,
For myself, I confess that a month free of New England noise is more therapeutic than a month in the country. Don't you agree, James?
well, honestly, I would...
Mr. Adams, pray, look for your voice, sir. It cannot be far, and God knows we need the entertainment in this Congress.
Congratulations, John. You just made your biggest contribution to independence. You kept your flap shut.
One more day.
Gentlemen, the usual morning festivities being concluded, I now call this Congress to order. Mr. Thompson?
The Second Continental Congress, meeting in the city of Philadelphia, is now in session. 7th June 1776, the 380th meeting.
Sweet Jesus!
The Honorable John Hancock of Massachusetts Bay, President.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Mr. McNair, the stores of rum and other drinking spirits are hereby closed to the colony of Rhode Island for a period of 3 days.
John, you can't do that!
Sit down, Mr. Hopkins. You've abused that privilege. The chair would also like to take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Lyman Hall of Georgia to Congress, and hopes he makes the best of it. God, it's hot. Secretary will read the roll.
All members present, with the following exceptions: Mr. Charles Carroll of Maryland, Mr. Samuel Adams of Massachusetts, Mr. Button Gwinnett of Georgia, Mr. George Wythe and Mr. Richard Henry Lee of Virginia, and the entire delegation of New Jersey.
I am concerned about the continued absence of 1/13 of this Congress. Where the hell is New Jersey?
Somewhere between New York and Pennsylvania.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dickinson. Oh, Dr. Franklin, what have you heard? Your son lives there.
Son, sir, what son?
The Royal Governor of New Jersey, sir?
As that title might suggest, sir, we are not in touch at the present time.
Yes, I suppose. Well, the weather report. Mr. Jefferson of Virginia. Mr. Jefferson.
Present, sir.
Could we hear about the weather? As if it weren't speaking for itself already.
86 degrees of temperature, 36 points of mercury, and wind from the southwest for the rest of the day. And tonight I'm leaving for home.
On business?
Family business.
Give her a good one for me, young fella.
Sir, it's
sir, I will.
From the commander, Army of the United Colonies in New York, dispatch number 1037.
Oh, sweet Jesus!
From the Honorable Congress, John Hancock, President, dear sir. It is with grave apprehension that I have learned this day of the sailing from Halifax, Nova Scotia, of a considerable force of British troops in the company of foreign mercenaries and under the command of General Sir William Howe. There can be no doubt that their destination is New York. For to take and hold this city and the Hudson Valley beyond would serve to separate New England from the other colonies, permitting both sections to be crushed in turn. Sadly, I see no way of stopping them at the present time. My army is absolutely falling apart. My military chest is totally exhausted. My commissary general has strained his credit to the last. My quartermaster has no food, no arms, no ammunition, and my troops are in a state of near mutiny. I pray some relief arrives before the Armada, but fear it will not. Your obedient G. Washington.
Mr. President.
Colonel McKean.
Thank you.
Surely we've managed to promote the gloomiest man on the continent to the head of our troops. Those dispatches are the most depressing accumulation of disaster, doom, and despair in the entire annals of military history. And furthermore, the morale of the troops is terrible. The food
Colonel McKean. It's too hot.
Yes, I suppose so.
General Washington will continue to work dispatches as he sees fit. And I'm sure that we all pray he finds happier thoughts to convey in the near future. Any resolutions, Mr. Thompson?
Dr. Josiah Bartlett of New Hampshire.
Resolved that for the duration of the present hostilities, the Congress discourage every type of extravagance and dissipation, the elaborate funerals and other expensive diversions, especially all horse races.
I'm back, Johnny. Lee, is it done? Please, to see your news.
First things first. Tom, where's Tom? Your bride wants to know.
What?
When he's coming home.
Tonight. I leave tonight. Never mind that. Is it done?
Done? Why, certain. Lee. Mr. President, I have returned from Virginia with the following resolution. Resolved that these united colonies are, and of a right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is, and ought to be, totally dissolved.
President, I second that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. The chair will now entertain debate.
Mr. President, Pennsylvania moves, as always, that the question of independence be postponed. Indefinite.
I second the motion.
Judge Wilson, in your effort to be loved, apparently you've forgotten that Pennsylvania cannot second its own motion.
Delaware seconds.
You would, you little weasel.
Motion has been made and seconded.
On the motion to postpone indefinitely the resolution of independency or to proceed with debate, those in favor of debate signify by saying yea. Those in favor of postponement signify by saying nay. New Hampshire.
New Hampshire favors debate and says yea.
New Hampshire says yea. Massachusetts.
Massachusetts, having borne the brunt of the king's
Yes,
I say tyranny, now it for always says yay.
Massachusetts says yea. Rhode Island. Mr. Hopkins, where is Rhode Island?
Rhode Island's out visiting the necessary.
With what Rhode Island has consumed, I'm not surprised. We'll come back to him, Mr. Thompson.
Very well. Rhode Island passes. New York. No, Connecticut.
Well, Connecticut has until now been against this proposition. Our legislature has instructed me that in the event that it is brought forth by a colony outside of New England, then Connecticut can no longer withhold its support. Connecticut says yay.
Connecticut says yay. New York.
See, Mr. Secretary, New York abstains. Courteous.
New York abstains.
Courteous.
New Jersey.
Oh, absent, Mr. Secretary.
Oh yes, New Jersey is missing. Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, for the 24th time, says nay.
Pennsylvania says nay. Delaware.
Delaware, as ever for independence, says yay.
Aye, Delaware says yay. Maryland.
Maryland would welcome independence if it were given, but is highly skeptical it can be taken. Maryland says nay.
Maryland says nay. Virginia.
Virginia, the first colony, says yay.
Virginia says yay. North Carolina.
North Carolina respectfully yields to South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Mr. Secretary, although we in South Carolina have never seriously considered the question of independence, when it is proposed by a gentleman, attention must be paid. However, we in the Deep South, unlike our friends in New England, have no cause for impatience at the present time. If at some future date it becomes the wish of all of our sister colonies to effect separation, we will not stand in the way. But for now, South Carolina will wait and watch. The vote is nay.
South Carolina says nay.
North Carolina
Says nay, yes, Mr. Hughes, I know. Georgia. Georgia?
Mr. Secretary, Georgia is split right down the middle on this issue. The people are against it, and I'm for it. I'm afraid I'm not yet certain whether representing the people means listening to their judgment or my own. So in all fairness, until I can figure it out, I had better lean towards their side. Georgia says nay.
Georgia says nay. Rhode Island, second call. Rhode Island.
I'm coming. Hold your damn horses.
We're waiting for you, Mr. Hopkins.
It won't kill you. You think Congress would have its own pisser.
All right, where does she stand?
5 votes for debate, 5 votes for postponement, 1 abstention, and 1 absence.
Well, I'll tell you. In all my years, I've never heard, seen, or smelled an issue that was so dangerous it couldn't be just talked about. Hell yes, I'm for debating anything. Rhode Island votes yay. McNair, give Mr. Hopkins a run.
But I thought you said
Give him the whole damn barrel if he wants it. Chair now declares this Congress a committee of the whole for the purpose of debating Virginia's resolution on independence. Mr. Dickens.
Well now, you've got your way at last, Mr. Adams. The matter may now be discussed. I confess, I'm almost relieved. There's a question I've been fairly itching to ask you. Why?
Why what, Mr. Dickens?
Why independence, Mr. Adams?
For the obvious reason that a continued association with Great Britain has grown intolerable.
To whom, Mr. Adams? To you? Then I suggest you sever your ties immediately. But please, be kind enough to leave the rest of us where we are. Personally, I have no objections at all to being part of the greatest empire on earth, to enjoying its protections and sharing its benefits.
Benefits? What benefits? Crippling taxes, cruel repression, abolished rights.
Is that all England means to you, sir? Is that all the affection and pride you can muster for the nation that bore you? For the noblest, most civilized nation on the face of this earth? Would you have us for, say, Hastings and Magna Carta, Strongbow and Lionheart, Drake and Marlborough, Tudors, Stuarts and Plantagenets? For what, sir? Tell me, for what? For you? Some men are patriots like General Washington, and some are anarchists like Mr. Paine. Some even are internationalists like Dr. Franklin, but you, sir, you are merely an agitator, disturbing the peace, creating disorder, endangering the public welfare, and for what? Your petty little personal complaints, your taxes are too high. Well, sir, So are mine. Come, Mr. Adams, if you have grievances, and I'm sure you have, our present system must provide a gentler means of redressing them short of revolution. That is what he wants. Nothing short of it will satisfy him. Violence, rebellion, treason. Now, sir, are these the acts of Englishmen?
Not Englishmen, Dickinson. Americans.
No, sir, Englishmen!
Please, Mr. Dickinson, but must you start banging? How is a man to sleep?
Forgive me, Dr. Franklin, but must you start speaking? How is a man to stay awake? We'll promise to be quiet, sir. I'm sure everyone prefers you remain asleep.
If I'm to hear myself called an Englishman, sir, I can assure you I'd prefer I'd remain asleep.
Oh, what's so terrible about being called an Englishman? The English don't seem to mind.
Nor would I, were I given the full rights of an Englishman. But to call me one without those rights is like calling an ox a bull. He's thankful for the honor, but he'd much rather have restored what's rightfully his.
When did you first notice they were missing, sir? Fortunately, Dr. Franklin, the people of these colonies maintain a higher regard for their mother country.
Higher, certainly, than she feels for them. Never has such a valuable possession been so recklessly and stupidly managed as this entire continent by the British Crown. Our industry discouraged, our resources pillaged, worse yet, our very character stifled. We've spawned a new race here. We are more resourceful, less refined, more violent. We're a new nationality, Mr. Dickinson. We require a new nation.
That may be your opinion, Dr. Franklin, but as I said, the people feel quite differently.
What do you know of the people, Dickinson? You don't speak for the people. You only represent yourself. And that precious status quo you keep imploring the people to defend is nothing more than the eternal preservation of your own property.
Mr. Adams, you have an annoying talent for making such delightful words as property sound quite distasteful. In heaven's name, what's wrong with property? Perhaps you've forgotten that many of us first came to these shores in order to secure rights to property. And we hold those rights no less dear than the rights you speak of.
Oh, so safe, so fat, so comfortable in Pennsylvania.
And what is this independence of yours except a private grievance of Massachusetts? Why is it always Boston that breaks the king's peace? My dear Congress, you must not adopt this evil measure. It is the work of the devil. Leave it where it belongs, in New England.
Brother Dickinson, New England has been fighting the devil for over 100 years.
And as of now, Brother Sherman, the devil is winning, hands down. Right at this very moment, he is sitting here in this Congress. Don't let him deceive you. This proposal is entirely his doing.
No, no, wait a minute.
Oh, it may bear Virginia's name, but it reeks of Adams, Adams, and more Adams. Look at him, ready to lead this continent down the fiery path of total destruction.
Good God! Why can't you acknowledge what already exists? It's been more than a year since Lexington and Concord. Damn it, man, we're at war!
You may be at war. You, Boston and John Adams. But you will never speak for Pennsylvania.
Nor for Delaware.
You represent only 1/3 of Delaware.
The sensible third, Mr. Rodney.
Sit down, you little roach, I'll knock you down right now.
Sit down, all of you! Sit down! McNair, do something about these damn flies.
McNair, fetch me another rum.
The flies first.
A rum.
I'm with one man.
Christ, it's hot. Oh, gentlemen, please do continue. You're making the only breeze in Philadelphia.
Mr. Adams, perhaps you could clear something up for me. Once we achieve independence, who do you propose will govern in South Carolina?
The people, of course.
Which people, sir? The people of South Carolina or the people of Massachusetts?
Why don't you admit it, Nettie? You're against independence now, and you always will be.
Gentlemen, you refuse to understand us. We are for independence. For South Carolina, That is our country. And as such, we don't wish it to belong to anyone. Not to England and not to you.
We intend to be one nation, Rutledge.
Yes. A nation of sovereign states, united for our mutual protection, but divided for our individual pursuits. That is what we've understood it to be. And that is what we will support, once everyone supports it.
There you are, Mr. Adams. You must say that we need time to make certain who we are and where we stand in regards to one another. For if we do not determine the nature of the beast before we set it free, it will end by consuming us all.
I say for once in your life, Judge Wilson, take a chance. The time is now. It may never come again.
Your clock is fast, Mr. Adams. I say we're not yet ripe for independence.
Not ripe? Hell, we're rotting for the want of it.
Gentlemen, please. What in God's name is the infernal hurry? Why must this question be settled now?
What's wrong with now, Mr. Chase?
General Washington is in the field. If he's defeated, as it now appears, we'll be inviting the hangman. If, by some miracle, he should actually win, we can then declare anything we damn please.
The sentiments of North Carolina precisely.
Has it occurred to either of you gentlemen that an army needs something to fight for in order to win a purpose, a cause, a flag of its own?
Mr. Adams, how can a nation of 2 million souls stand up to an empire of 10 million? Think about it. 10 million. How do we compensate for that shortage?
Simple, Mr. Chase. We increase and multiply.
How's that?
We will more than compensate with spirit. I tell you, there's a spirit out there among the people that's sadly lacking here in this Congress.
Yes, of course. Now it's spirit. Why didn't I think of that? No army, no navy, no arms, no ammunition, no treasury, no friends, but bless our souls, spirit. Mr. Hopkins, Mr. Rodney, Colonel McKee, Dr. Franklin, why have you joined with this incendiary little man, this Boston radical, this agitator, this demagogue, this madman?
Are you calling me a madman, you fribble?
Oh, easy, John.
You and your Pennsylvania proprieties, you cool, considerate men. You stick to the rear on every issue. That way, if we go under, you still remain afloat.
Are you calling me a coward?
Yes. Coward.
Madman?
Landlord.
Liar!
Stop it, I say! The enemy's out there!
No, Mr. Rodney, the enemy is here!
No! No, he's out there! It's England! England, he's closing in! He's cutting off our air! There's no time! There's no air! Thomas!
Caesar, sir! Caesar! Oh, Caesar! Dr. Holmes!
Colonel McKee,
It's a cancer.
you should go home.
Yes. A man should die in his own bed. John,
Caesar, I'm here.
I leave you a divided Delaware. Forgive me.
I'll take you home, Caesar. John, I'll be back within the week.
Mr. President, South Carolina wishes to call the question.
What?
What's that, Mr. Rutledge?
I said, Mr. President, that South Carolina wishes to end this debate and call the question of independence.
Delaware second.
Question has been called and seconded. Mr. Thompson will
Franklin?
record the vote.
Do something, think.
I'm thinking, but nothing's coming.
All those in favor of the...
Mr. Secretary, would you read the resolution again, please?
Oh,
Franklin.
I've forgotten it.
Oh, come now.
Resolved that these united colonies are and of a right ought to be free and independent states.
I beg
They
your
are
pardon?
result-
I'm the Reverend John Witherspoon, the new delegate from New Jersey. Oh, Dr. Franklin, I regret to be the bearer of unfortunate tidings, but your son, the Royal Governor of New Jersey, has been taken prisoner and is being moved under guard to the colony of Connecticut for safekeeping.
Is he unharmed, sir?
Yes, the last I heard, sir. Yes.
Well, then why the long face? I hear Connecticut is a lovely location. Tell me, why did they arrest the little bastard?
Well, our New Jersey legislature has called back the old delegation and sent a new one.
Quickly, man, where do you stand on independence?
Haven't I made myself clear? No. Oh, I suppose I haven't. Well, that was the reason they recalled the old delegation. We've been instructed to vote for independence.
Mr. President, Massachusetts is now ready for the question on independence and reminds the chair of its privilege to decide all votes that are deadlocked.
I won't forget, Mr. Adams. The chair would like to welcome the Reverend Witherspoon and appoint him congressional chaplain if he'll accept that position.
With great pleasure, sir.
Mr. Thompson, please continue the vote on independence.
All those in favor of the resolution on independence as proposed by the colony of Virginia.
Mr. President, Pennsylvania moves that any vote in favor of independence must be unanimous.
Judge Wilson.
Oh my God.
Delaware seconds, Mr. President.
No vote has ever had to be unanimous, and you know it.
Yes, but this one must be.
On what grounds?
That no colony be torn from its mother country without its own consent.
Here, here.
But it will never be unanimous.
If you say so, Mr. Adams.
Has been moved and seconded that any vote on independence must be unanimous in order to carry. All those in favor signify by saying yea.
Yea.
6 colonies say yea. All those opposed signify by saying nay.
Nay.
6 colonies say nay.
Mr. Secretary, New York abstains.
Mr. Morris, why does New York continually abstain? Why didn't New York just stay in New York? Very well. The vote is tied. The principles of liberty have no greater advocate in this Congress than in its president. That is the reason why I must vote along with those for unanimity.
John, what are you doing? You sometimes.
Hear me out. Don't you see? Any colony who votes against independence will be forced to fight with England. We'll be setting brother against brother. This new nation will forever have as its emblem the mark of Cain. I see no other way. Either we march forward together, stay where we are. Please do continue, Mr. Thompson.
A unanimous vote being necessary to carry. If any
Mr. President.
For God's sake, man, let me get through it once!
I move for a postponement.
Postponement? Ha! I wish you the same luck I had with it.
Mr. Adams is right. We need a postponement.
On what grounds?
On what grounds?
On what grounds? On the grounds that how can this Congress vote for independence without some sort of written declaration defining it?
What kind of declaration?
Well, you know, a listing of all the reasons for the separation and our aims and goals, etc., so forth. So, yes.
Well, we already know those things, don't we?
Oh, good God, yes. We know those, yes, of course. Yes. Well, certainly we require the aid of a powerful nation like France or Spain, and such a written declaration would be consistent with European delicacy.
Yeah. Come now, Mr. Adams. You'll have to do better than that. Answer straight. What would be its purpose?
Then,
to place before mankind the common sense of the subject in terms so plain and firm as to command their assent.
Mr. Jefferson, are you seriously suggesting we publish a paper declaring to all the world that an illegal rebellion is in reality a legal one?
Well, Mr. Dickinson, I'm surprised at you. rebellion is always legal in the first person, such as our rebellion. It's only in the third person, their rebellion, that it becomes illegal. Mr. President, I second the motion for a postponement on the vote on independence for a period of time sufficient for the writing of a declaration.
Motion has been made and seconded. Mr. Thompson?
All those in favor of postponement signify by saying yea.
Yay!
6 colonies say yea. All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
6 colonies say nay.
Mr. Secretary, New York abstains. Previous.
Mr. Morris, what the hell goes on in New York?
Well, you see, Mr. President, our legislature has never sent us explicit instructions on how to vote on anything.
Never? That's impossible.
Have you ever been to a meeting of the New York legislature? Everybody talks very loud and very fast, and well, the result is nothing ever really gets done. I name the Congress Party.
My sympathies, Mr. Morris. The vote again being tied. The chair decides in favor of the postponement. So ruled. A committee will now be formed to manage the declaration, a document to be written, debated, and approved by the beginning of July, 3 weeks hence. At which time we will finally vote on Virginia's resolution on independence. Is that clear? Very well. Will the following gentlemen please serve on the committee? Dr. Franklin, Mr. John Adams, Mr. Sherman, Mr. Livingston, and of course Mr. Lee of Virginia.
Oh, excuse me, but I must be returning to the sovereign country of Virginia, as I have been asked to serve as governor. Therefore, I must decline. Respectfully.
All right, Mr. Lee, you are excused. I suppose we could just leave it a committee of 4.
Mr. President, this business needs a Virginian. Therefore, I propose a replacement of Mr. Thomas Jefferson.
No, Mr. Adams,
very
no.
well, Mr. Adams. Mr. Jefferson will
Hold
serve.
on a
Move to
moment.
adjourn.
I'm going home to my wife.
A motion has been made and seconded. Are there any objections?
Objections? Yes, I have lots of
So
objections.
Congress is now adjourned.
All right. Let's get to it, gentlemen. Which one of us is going to write our Declaration on Independence?
Mr. Adams, I say you should write it to your legal mind and brilliant sweet defer.
Is that so? Well, if I'm the one to do it, they'll run their filters through it. I'm obnoxious and dislike, you know that, sir.
Yes, I do.
Then I say you should write it, Franklin. Yes, you.
Hell no.
Yes, you, Dr. Franklin. You.
But,
You.
Mr. Adams, Mr. Adams, the things I write are only light extemporaneous. I won't put politics on paper, it's a mania, so I refuse to use the pen in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania, refuse to use a pen.
Mr. Sherman, I say you should write it. You are never controversial, as it were.
That is true.
Where if I'm the one to do it, they'll run their clothing through it. I'm obnoxious and dislike, you know that, sir.
Yes, I do.
Then I say you should write it, Roger. Yes, you.
But heavens no.
Yes, you, Roger Sherman. You.
Mr. Adams, but Mr. Adams, I cannot write with any style of proper etiquette. I don't know the preposition from a predicate. I am just a simple cobbler from Connecticut.
Connecticut, Connecticut, a simple cobbler he.
Mr. Livingston, I say you should write it. You have many friends
and you're a diplomat.
Oh, that word.
Where if I'm the one to do it, they'll run their filthy through it.
He's obnoxious and disliked, did you know that?
I hadn't heard. And I say you should write it, Robert. Yes, you.
Not me, Johnny.
Yes, you, Robert Livingston. You.
But, Mr. Adams, dear Mr. Adams, I've been presented with a new son by the noble sort, so I am going off to celebrate and pop the corn with all the Livingstons together back in old New York. New York, New York, Livingston's going to pop a corn.
Mr. Jefferson.
Mr. Adams, leave me alone!
Mr. Jefferson.
Mr. Adams, please, I beg of you, I've not seen my wife for the past 6 months.
Resolve that we will preserve our liberties, rather die as freemen than live as slaves. Thomas Jefferson, on the necessity of bearing arms, 1775. Magnificent. You write 10 times better than any man in Congress, including me. And for a man of only 33 years, you possess a happy talent of composition and a wonderful felicity of expression. Now, will you be a patriot or a lover?
Lover.
No!
But I burn, Mr. Raines.
So do I, Mr. J.
John? Who'd have thought it?
Mr. Jefferson, dear Mr. Jefferson, I'm only 41, I still have my virility, and I can run through Cupid's grove with great agility, but life is more than sexual combustibility.
Bustability! Bustability!
Quiet! Now you'll write it, Mr. J.
Who will make me, Mr. A?
I.
You.
Yes.
How?
By physical force if necessary. It's your duty. It's your duty, damn it.
Mr. Adams, damn you, Mr. Adams. You're obnoxious and dislike that cannot be denied. Once again you stand between me and my lovely bride. Mr. Adams, you are driving me to homicide! Homicide!
Quiet! The choice is yours. Do as you like with it.
We may see murder Damn the man. God damn the man.
Jefferson! Is it finished? Can I see it? It's been over a week. There comes a time in the lives of men when it becomes necessary to throw off their... This is terrible. Where's the rest of it? You mean to say it's not yet finished?
No, sir. I mean to say it's not yet begun.
Good God! A whole week! The entire Earth was created in a week!
Someday you must tell me how you did it.
Disgusting. Look at him, Franklin. Virginia's most famous lover.
Virginia abstains. Courteously.
Oh, cheer up, Jefferson. Get out of the dumps. Get back to work. Franklin, tell him to get back to work.
He's asleep.
You, hello, whose little girl are you? John, who is she?
That's his wife, I think.
What did you
Because I sent for her.
You what?
It simply occurred to me the sooner his problem was solved, the sooner our problem was solved.
John, good thinking.
Good evening, madam. May I present myself? John Adams. Adams. John Adams. And Dr. Franklin in for the stove. Jefferson, kindly introduce us to your wife. She is your wife, isn't she?
Of course she is. Look how they fit. Well, come along, John. Come along.
Come along where? There's work to be done.
Obviously.
You mean they're going to in the middle of the afternoon?
Not everybody's from Boston, John. Good night.
Incredible. Oh, Franklin, are you hungry?
No, no.
Turkey's fresh and a bunch of grapes.
I have a rendezvous, John. I invite you to join us. The talking makes her nervous.
Incredible. Oh, Abigail. Abigail, I'm so lonely.
Are you, John? Then as long as you were sending for wives, why didn't you send for your own?
Abigail, please don't be unreasonable.
Oh, now I'm being unreasonable. You must add that to your list.
List?
The catalog of faults you included in your last letter?
They were fondly intended, madam.
That I play cards badly?
A compliment.
That my posture is crooked?
An endearment.
That I read, write, and think too much?
An irony.
That I am pigeon-toed?
Ah, well, there you have me, Abby. I'm afraid you are pigeon-toed. Oh, Abigail. Come to Philadelphia. Please come.
Thank you, John, I do want to. But you know that's not possible now. Children have the measles.
Yes. You wrote Little Tom and Abby?
Only now it's Quincy and Charles. And I'm afraid the farm here in Braintree is failing, John. The chickens and geese have all died. The apples never survived the late frost. How do you suppose she managed to get away?
The winters are softer in Virginia.
And their women, John?
Oh, fit for Virginians, ma'am. But pale, puny things next to the New England girls.
Oh, John, I thank you for that.
How goes it with you, Abby?
Not well, John. Not at all well. I live like a nun in a cloister, solitary celibate. I hate it, and you, John?
I live like a monk in an abbey. Ditto, ditto, I hate it.
Try to move with sentimental effusion. Let me revel in romantic illusion.
Do you still smell of vanilla and spring air? And is my favorite lover's pillow still firm and fair?
What was there, John? Still is there, John. Come soon as you can to my cloister. I've forgotten the feel of your hand.
Soon, madam, we shall walk in Cupid's grove together, and we'll fondly survey
doing down here? I expected you to be up there cracking the whip.
The shutters are still closed.
My word, so they are. Well, as the French say.
Oh, Franklin, spare me your body mind first thing in the morning. Dare we call?
Well, Congressman, there's anything. Go ahead.
Me?
Your voice is more piercing, John.
Maybe we should come back later.
What?
Well, it's positively unseemly.
John, they're young and they're in love.
Not them, Franklin. Us. Standing out here on the street, waiting for them to...
Don't worry, John. The history books will clear it up.
I won't appear anywhere in the history books. No, it'll be Franklin did this, and Franklin did that, and then Franklin did some other damn thing. And then Franklin smote the ground, and out rose George Washington, fully grown and on his horse. And then Franklin electrified Washington with his magical lightning rod. And the three of them, Franklin, Washington, and the horse, conducted the entire revolution all by themselves.
I like it. Oh, John, look at her. Just look at her.
I know.
She's even more magnificent than I remember. Of course, we didn't see very much of her front last night. Good morrow, madam.
Good morrow.
Is it the habit in Philadelphia for strangers to shout at ladies from the streets?
Well, no, it's not, but...
Men of your age. It's not only unseemly, it's unsightly.
Forgive us, madam, but we did present ourselves last night.
I spoke to no one last night.
Indeed you did not, madam, yet we did present ourselves. This is Mr. John Adams, and I am Dr. Franklin, the inventor of the stove.
No, I know your names well. It's just, you say you presented yourselves?
It's of no matter. Your thoughts were well taken elsewhere.
My husband is not yet up.
Shall we start again? Would you join us, madam?
Yes, of course.
No wonder the man couldn't write. Who could think of independence married to her?
I beg you to forgive me. It is indeed an honor to meet the two greatest men in America.
The two greatest within earshot, anyhow.
I am not an idle flatterer, Dr. Franklin. My husband admires you both greatly.
Then we are doubly admired, for we admire very much that which your husband admires.
Did you sleep well, madam? I mean, did you lie punctually? You know what I mean.
Yes, of course, we know what you mean. Tell us more about yourself, madam. We've had precious little information. What is your first name?
Martha.
Oh, Martha. He could at least have told us that. I'm afraid your husband doesn't say very much.
He's the most silent man in Congress. I don't believe I've ever heard him utter 3 sentences put together.
John, not everyone's a talker.
It's true, you know. Tom is not a talker. Oh, he never speaks his passions. He never speaks his views. Whereas other men speak volumes, the man I love is mute. In truth, I can't recall being moved with words at all. Even now.
Oh, do go on, madam.
How did he win you, Martha, and how does he hold on to a bounty such as you?
Surely you know Tom is a man of many accomplishments. Author, lawyer, statesman, architect, farmer, and still one more I hesitate to mention.
Oh, don't hesitate, madam.
Yes,
Not
what else can that
hesitate.
red-headed tombstone do?
Plays the violin. He tucks it right under his chin, and he moves. Oh, he moves, for he knows, yes, he knows that it's high, 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 diddle, diddle, twixt my heart, Tom and his fiddle. My strings are unstrung.
settles it, John. We're taking up the violin.
Very well, then. You have us playing the violin. What happens next?
Next, Mr. Adams.
Yes, what does love do now?
Why, just what you would expect. We dance.
Dance? Incredible! Who's playing the violin?
Oh, John, really? Oh, John, you can dance!
Not everyone's from Philadelphia, Frank.
Hi, hi, hi,
Heaven calls to me, singing a sad elegy. Say I died, loving bride, loving wife, loving life. For it was high, 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 twixt my heart, all that is filled, and ever 'twill be. High, high, high,
He's written something. Dear Mr. Adams, I'm taking my wife back to bed. I'm taking her away, obedient T. Jefferson. Incredible!
Well, perhaps I should have written the Declaration after all. At my age, there's very little doubt that the pen is mightier than the sword. For it was high, 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 diddle, diddle. God bless the man who can fiddle. Independence Day. High, 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 high. Ya da 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 da. Through eternity plays the violin. Violin, violin.
What follows is a complete and up-to-date list of all committees of this Congress sitting, about to sit, or having just sat. Committee formed to investigate the complaints made against the quality of yeast manufactured by Mr. Henry Pendleton's mill, designated as the Yeast Committee. Committee formed to consider the most effective means of dealing with spies, designated as the Spies Committee. Committee formed to consider, perhaps to do, but in any case, to gather, to think, to talk, but to resolve the possibility of having at least one drum and one fife attached to each company, designated as the Drum and Fife Committee.
Well, there you have it, Dr. Hall, democracy. What Plato called a charming form of government full of variety and disorder. Never knew Plato had been to Philadelphia.
McNair, open that damn window.
Ben, I want you to see some cards I've gone and had printed up. That ought to save everyone a whole lot of time and effort, considering the epidemic of bad dispositions that's been going on around here lately. Dear sir, you are, without any doubt, a rogue, a rascal, a villain, a thief, a scoundrel, and a mean, dirty, stinking,
Sniveling, sneaking, pimping, pocket picking, price double damn, no good son of a bitch. Oh, and then you sign your name. What do you think?
I'll take a dozen right now, Stephen.
All right, Franklin, enough socializing. There's work to be done.
Good morning, John.
What? Oh, good morrow, good morrow. Now let's get to it.
Doing what? What?
Unanimity, of course. Of that board. 6 days went over a little more than
Being
a week.
informed to study the problem of counterfeit money designated as the Counterfeit Money Committee.
All right, John, well, where do we start?
How about Delaware? It's a sad thing to find her on the wrong side after all this
Being
time.
informed to
Any
study
news
their
of Caesar
military
Rodney?
defeats in Canada.
Oh, Colonel McKean is back.
McKean! How did you leave Caesar? Is he still alive?
Aye. The journey to Dover was fearful hard on him. He never complained, but I could see that the poor man was a suffering.
But you got him home safe.
I did, but I doubt he'll ever set foot out of it again.
That just leaves you and Reese split right down the middle. Will he come over?
I don't know. He's a stubborn little snot.
Then work on him. Wear him down if you have to.
John, face the facts, will you? If it was just Reed standing in our way, it wouldn't be so bad, but look for yourself, man. Maryland, Pennsylvania, the entire South, it's impossible.
It's only impossible if we stand around here complaining about it. To work, McKean, 1 foot in front of the other.
I believe I put it a better way. Never put off till tomorrow that which you can do.
Oh, shut up, Franklin.
What good would it do? You know Dickinson will never give in, and you haven't heard the last of Rutledge yet
Don't
either.
worry about those two. Your job's George Reed. Talk him death if you have to, but bring us back Delaware.
Aye, there's the simpler way. This'll break the tie.
Being informed to keep secrets designated as secrets.
All right, John, who's next?
Pennsylvania and Maryland. I suggest you put your own house in order. I'll take a crack at old Bacon's face. What do you say, Chase? When are you going to come to your senses?
Please, Mr. Adams, how are we meeting?
Mr. Wilson, time to assert yourself, sir. How in hell did you ever make a decision when you were a judge?
The decisions are made all based on legality and precedent. There's no legality here, and certainly no precedent.
Because it's a new idea, you clot. We'll be setting our own precedent.
No, Mr. McKean. No, no, no.
Damn your eyes, Reed! You come into this world a screaming no, and you're bound and determined to leave it the same way.
Chase, Congress is waiting on you. America is waiting on you. The whole world is waiting.
Leave me alone, Mr. Adams. You're wasting your time. If I thought we could win this war, I'd be at the front of your ranks. But you must know it's impossible. You've heard General Washington's dispatches. His army has fallen apart.
Washington is just exaggerating the situation to arouse this torment Congress to some sort of action. Why, as chairman of the War Committee, I can tell you that never has it been more resolute. Never have soldiers training been better. Never have they been more equipped. Oh, good God!
Gentlemen, could we have your ears? Johnson has a dispatch.
From the Commander, Army of the United Colonies in New York, dispatch number 1157. The Honorable Congress, John Hancock, President, dear sir. It is with the utmost despair that I must report to you the confusion and disorder that reign in every department. The Continental soldier is as nothing ever seen in this or any other century. He is a misfit, ignorant of hygiene, destructive, disorderly, and totally disrespectful of rank. Only this last is understandable, as there is an incredible reek of stupidity amongst the officers. The situation is most desperate at the New Jersey training ground in New Brunswick, where every able-bodied whore in the colonies has assembled. There are constant reports of drunkenness, desertion, foul language, naked bathing in the Raritan River, and an epidemic of the French disease. I have declared the town off limits to all military personnel, with the exception of officers. I beseech the Congress to dispatch the War Committee to this place in hope of restoring some of the order and discipline we need to survive. Your obedient, G. Washington.
God, the man with the press, a hyena.
Well, Mr. Adams, you're chairman of the War Committee. Are you up for some whoring, drinking, deserting, and New Brunswick?
There must be some mistake. My aunt lives in New Brunswick.
You must tell her to keep up the good work. is hopeless. Let us recall General Washington and disband the Continental Army before we are overwhelmed.
Yes, the English would like that, wouldn't they?
Why not ask them yourself? They ought to be here any minute.
Yes, and when they hang you, Mr. Adams, you will put in a good word for the rest of us, won't you?
Face facts, Mr. Adams. A handful of drunk and disorderly recruits against the entire British Army, the finest musketmen on earth. How can we win? How can we even hope to survive?
Answer me straight, Chase. If you thought we could beat Redcoats, would Maryland say yay to independence?
Well, I suppose.
No supposing.
Very well, Mr. Adams. Yes, we would.
Then come with me to New Brunswick and see for yourself. John, are you mad?
You heard what Washington said. It's a shambles.
They're pushing into it, Johnny.
You say, Chase?
Go ahead, Sam. It sounds lively as hell up there.
Why not? Very well. Yes, Mr. Adams. Then maybe it'll be Mr. Adams that comes to his senses.
Mr. President, the War Committee will heed Washington's request, and the party consisting of Chase, myself, and Dr. Franklin will leave immediately.
Is that satisfactory with you, Dr. Franklin?
Wake up, Franklin. We're going to New Brunswick.
Like hell I am. What for?
The horn and the drinking!
Come on, move on, Chase. There. Move it. There. Right.
Mr. McNair, all this talk of independence is like a sort of foulness in the air. My friends and I would appreciate it if you could open some windows.
What about the flies?
The window, Mr. McNair. Oh, say, do you see what I see? Come here in sweet serenity. I could cheer the reasons clear. For the first time in a year, Adams is appear. And look, the sun is in the sky, a breeze is blowing by, and there's not a single fly. I sing Hosanna, 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 Hosanna. It's cool. Come ye cool, conservative men. Our light may never be seen again. We have learned, cash in hand, self-command, future planned. Fortune thrives, society survives, in meteor lives, with well-endowed wives. Come sing Hosanna, Hosanna, in a breeding and a manner beautiful. Come ye who consider it set, we'll dance together in the same minuet. To the right, ever to the right, never to the left, forever to the right. Let our creed be never to exceed regulated speed, no matter what we need. Come sing Hosanna, Hosanna, and blazon on our banner, please keep cool. To the right, ever to the right, never to the left, forever to the right. Hands attach, tightly latch, everybody match.
I have a new dispatch from the commander, Army of the United Colonies in New York, dispatch number 1158. To the Honorable Congress, John Hancock, President, dear sir. I awoke this morning to find that General Howe has landed 25,000 British regulars and Hessian mercenaries on Staten Island, and that the fleet, under the command of his brother, Admiral Lord Howe, controls not only the Hudson and East Rivers, but New York Harbor, which now looks like all of London afloat. I can no longer, in good conscience, withhold from the Congress my certainty that the British military object at this time is Philadelphia. Happy should I be if I could see the means of preventing them, but at present I confess I do not. Oh, how I wish I had never seen the Continental Army. I would have done better to retire to the back country and live in a wigwam. Your obedient, G. Washington.
What we do rationally.
We never ever go up half, cock not we. Why begin till we know that we will win? And if we cannot win, why bother to begin?
We say this game's not of our choosing. Why should we risk losing? We fool men.
Mr. Hancock, you're a man of property, one of us. Why don't you join us in our minuet? Why do you persist in dancing with John Adams? Good Lord, sir, you don't even like the man.
Well, that is true. He annoys me quite a lot. But still, I'd rather trot to Mr. Adams who goes on.
But why? For personal glory? For a place in history? Be careful, sir. History will rank him and his followers as traitors.
Traitors to what, Mr. Nicholson? The British crown or the British half-crown? Fortunately, there are not enough men of property in America to dictate policy.
Perhaps not. But don't forget that most men with nothing would rather protect the possibility of becoming rich than face the reality of being poor. And that is why they will follow us. To the right, never to the right, never to the left, or ever to the right. Where there's gold, found nothing that will hold, tradition that is old, reluctant to be bold. Sing Hosanna, Hosanna, Saint and Lucid manner. We are cool, we're the cool, considerate men, whose like may never ever be seen again. We have men, cash in hand, self-command, future plan, and we're home to our home. Tradition that is old, reluctant to be bold. We say this game's not of our choosing. Why should we risk losing? We
Sweet Jesus. How'd you like to borrow $1 for one of them? You want another rum, General?
General? Lord, I ain't even a corporal.
What's the Army know? Gentlemen, take a seat. The chair rules, it's too damn hot to work. What's it like out there, General?
You know better than me.
God, I'm sitting in here. Sweet Jesus, this is the last place to find out what's going on.
I didn't mean to join up.
What are you talking about? You don't need to join up. You're in the Congress.
What's that got to do with
Well, you don't see them rushing off getting killed, do you? But they sure are great ones at sending others, I'll tell you that.
Hey, who sits there?
Caesar Rodney from Delaware. And where are you from, General?
Watertown,
Where's that?
Massachusetts.
Oh, Massachusetts. Well then, you be wanting to sit over here. But be careful. This chair has a habit of making a man mighty noisy.
You see any fighting?
Sure did. I seen my two best friends get killed on the same day. Right on the village green it was, too. And, well, when they didn't come home for supper, their mamas came looking for them. Oh, Miss Lowell, she found Timothy right off. But Miss Pickett, she searched near half the night for Willem. Because he'd gone and crawled off the green before he died.
Mama,
sky. Is that you I'm hearing in the tall grass nearby? Mama, come find me before I do die. Hey, hey, Mama, look sharp.
My baby, them eyes that cannot see, and I'll bury you, my baby, beneath the maple tree. And ever again will you whisper to me.
Hey, hey, Mama, look sharp.
Secretary will now read the report of the Declaration Committee. Thompson?
The Declaration of the Representatives of the United States of America in General Congress assembled. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impelled them to the separation. We hold these truths to be
Jefferson,
self-evident.
we're back and we have Maryland. Confident we will have Maryland as soon as Chase gets through telling the Maryland Assembly what he saw up in New Brunswick.
He's in Annapolis right now, describing a ragtag collection of provincial militiamen who could not train together, drill together, or march together. But when a flock of ducks flew by and they saw their first meal in 3 days, sweet Jesus, could they shoot together? It was a slaughter.
They're reading the Declaration.
What? How far have they got?
To render the military independent of and superior to the civil power.
Independent of and superior to the civil power.
It's a masterpiece. I'm to be congratulated. You for making him write it.
Oh, yes, of course.
It's a masterpiece, I say. They will cheer every word, every letter.
I wish I felt that way.
I believe I can put it better. Now then, attend as friend to friend our Declaration Committee. For us I see immortality in Philadelphia City. A farmer, a lawyer, and a sage, a bit gouty in the leg. You know it's quite bizarre to think that here we are, playing midwives to an egg.
Egg? What's egg?
America, the birth of a new nation.
If only we could be so sure of what type of bird it would be.
Tom's got a point. What sort of a bird shall we choose as the national symbol of our new America?
The eagle.
The dove.
The turkey.
The eagle.
The dove.
The eagle.
The eagle.
The turkey.
The eagle is a majestic bird.
The eagle is a thief, a scavenger, and a coward, and the symbol of more than 10 centuries of European mischief.
And the turkey.
A truly noble fellow. A native of America, source of sustenance to our early settlers, and an incredibly brave fellow who would not flinch from single-handedly fighting off an entire regiment of Englishmen. Therefore, the national bird of America is going to be...
The eagle.
The eagle.
We're waiting for the chirp, chirp, chirp
of an eaglet being born, waiting for the chirp, chirp, chirp on this humid Monday morning in this
Congressional incubator.
God knows the temperature's hot enough to hatch a stone, let alone an egg.
We're waiting for the
Scratch, scratch, scratch of that tiny little fellow, waiting for the egg to hatch on this humid Monday morning in this congressional incubator.
God knows the temperature's hot enough to hatch a stone,
but will it hatch an egg?
It will be a triumph. A triumph, I tell you. If I was ever sure of anything, I'm sure of that. It will be a triumph. And if it's not, we still have 4 days to come up with something else. The eagle's going to crack the shell of the egg that England laid.
Yes, so we can tell on this humid Monday morning in this congressional incubator.
And just as Tom here has written, though the shell may belong to Great Britain, the eagle inside belongs to us.
And just as Tom here has written,
we say to hell with Great Britain, the eagle inside belongs to us.
And finally, we declare these colonies to be free and independent states, and that as free and independent states they shall hereafter have power to levy war, keep peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Congress has heard the report of the Decoration Committee. Are there any who wish to offer any amendments to the Mr. McNair, you better open that window. Colonel McKean, I think I saw your hand first.
Tom, it's a bony paper you've written, but in it you mentioned Scottish and foreign mercenaries coming to destroy us. Scottish, Tom?
it's in reference to a Highland regiment that stood against us at Boston.
It's more likely Germans wearing kilts to disguise their being there. I ask you to remove the word and avoid giving offense to a good people.
Mr. Jefferson.
Mr. Jefferson, I heard no mention of the Supreme Being. Certainly this is an oversight, for how could we hope to achieve victory without his help? Therefore, I must humbly suggest the following addition to your final sentence. With a firm alliance on the protection of divine providence.
Mr. Jefferson.
Mr. Reed, I think I saw your hand up earlier.
Among your charges against the king, Mr. Jefferson, you accuse him of depriving us of the benefits of trial by jury. This is untrue, sir. In Delaware, we've always had trial by jury.
In Massachusetts, we have not.
Oh. Then I suggest that the words "in many cases" be added.
Mr. Jefferson.
In many cases? In many cases? Brilliant! And I suppose every time you see those 3 words, your puny little chest swells up with pride over your great historical contribution.
It's more memorable than your unprincipled whitewash of that race of barbarians.
Mr. Reed! Colonel McKean! Enough! Enough! Mr. Hopkins? No objections, Johnny. I just wanted to get another drink. There, get him a rum.
Bartlett? Mr. Jefferson, we still have friends in England. I I don't understand the point of antagonizing them with phrases such as unfeeling brethren and enemies of war. Our quarrel is with the British king, sir, not the British people.
Be sensible, Bartlett. Remove those phrases and the entire passage becomes meaningless. And it's one of the most stirring and poetic passages in the entire document. I'll read.
We are a Congress, Mr. Adams, not a literary society.
Here.
I request that the entire paragraph be stricken.
Mr. Jefferson.
Good God, Jefferson! Don't you intend to speak up for your work?
I had hoped the work would speak for itself.
Mr. Hancock?
What is it, Mr. McNair?
I can tell you, I'm really not fond of the United States of America as the name for a new country.
I don't care what you're fond of. You're not a member of this Congress. Anyone else? Mr. Sherman?
Brother Jefferson, I've noted at least two distinct and direct references to the British Parliament in your declaration. Do you think it wise to alienate such an august group in light of our contention that they have never had any control over us anyway?
Good God! This is a revolution! We're going to have to offend somebody!
John, you'll give yourself an attack of apoplexy if you're not
What
careful.
they're doing to it.
Well, yes, I've
Have
heard.
you heard?
Yes,
and
I've
so
heard.
far, it's only our friends. Imagine what happens when our enemies get a hold of it. They're not going to be happy until they remove one of the F's from Jefferson's name.
Courage, John. It won't last as
Reverend
long.
Piers. Mr. Dickinson.
Mr. Jefferson, I have very little interest in your paper, as there's no doubt in my mind we've all but heard the last of it. I am curious about one thing. Why do you refer to King George as a tyrant?
Because he is a tyrant.
I remind you, Mr. Jefferson, that this tyrant is still your king.
When a king becomes a tyrant, he thereby dissolves the contract binding his subjects to him.
How so?
By taking away their rights.
Rights that came from him in the first place.
All but one. The right to be free comes from nature.
Mr. Wilson, do we in Pennsylvania consider King George a tyrant?
Well, I don't know. No. No, we don't. He's not a tyrant in Pennsylvania.
There you are, Mr. Jefferson. Your declaration does not speak for us all. I demand the word tyrant be removed.
Just a moment, Mr. Thompson. I do not consent. The king is a tyrant, whether we call him one or not. Might as well call him one.
But I already scratched it out.
Then scratch it back in.
What about Mr. Thompson? The king will remain a tyrant. Mr. Hughes.
Mr. Jefferson, nowhere did you mention deep sea fishing, right?
Fishing, right? Good God! How long is this piddling to go on? We have been sitting here for 3 full days. We have endured, by my count, some 85 separate changes and the removal of close to 400 words. Whip it and beat it until you break its spirit. I tell you, this document is the masterful expression of the American mind.
Thank you.
Well, if there are no further changes, I assume that the report of the Declaration Committee can now be voted on as
Just a minute, Mr. President.
Look out.
Mr. President, I wonder if we can impose upon Mr. Thompson to read again a small portion of Mr. Jefferson's declaration. The one that begins, he hath waged cruel war.
Let's see, he has perfected, he has divined, he has abdicated, he has plundered, he has excited, he has incited, he has waged cruel war against human nature itself, in the persons of a distant people who never offended him, captivating and carrying them into slavery in another hemisphere. Determined to keep open a market where men should be bought and sold, he has prostituted his negative.
That's quite enough, Mr. Thompson. I thank you. Mr. Jefferson, I'm not really sure I understand what it is you're talking about.
Slavery, Rutledge.
Oh, you're referring to us as slaves of the king.
No, sir. I'm referring to our slaves. Black slaves.
Black slaves? Well, why didn't you say so, sir? Or were you trying to hide your meaning?
No, sir.
Just a little literary license, then.
If you like.
I do not like, sir. I do not like at all. For us in South Carolina, black slavery is a peculiar institution and a cherished way of life.
Nevertheless, we must abolish it. I tell you, nothing is more certainly written in the Book of Fate than these people shall be free.
I'm not concerned with what's written in the Book of Fate right now, sir. What I'm concerned with, Mr. Jefferson, is what's written on your little paper there.
That little paper there deals with freedom for Americans.
Mr. Adams is calling our black slaves Americans. Are they now?
They're people, and they're here. If there is any other reason, and I've not heard of it.
They are here, sir, but they are not people. They are property.
No, sir. They are people who are being treated as property. I tell you, the rights of human nature are deeply wounded by this infamous practice.
Then I say you see to your own wounds, sir, for you are a practitioner, are you not?
I have already resolved to release my slaves.
Then I am sorry for you, for you've also resolved the ruination of your own personal economy.
Economy. Always economy. There's more to this than a filthy purse string, Rutledge. It's an offense against man and God.
It's a stinking business, Mr. Rutledge. A stinking business.
Is it, Mr. Hockey? Then what is it I smell coming down from the north? Is it the aroma of hypocrisy? For who holds the other end of that filthy purse string, Mr. Adams? Our northern friends are feeling a little tender about our black slaves. They don't keep slaves, no. But they're willing to be considerable carriers of slaves to others. They're willing for the shilling. Or haven't you heard, Mr. Adams? Clink, clink. Molasses to rum to slaves. Oh, what a beautiful war. You dance with us, we dance with you, in molasses and rum and slaves. Who sails the ships out of Boston, laden with Bibles and rum? Who drinks a toast to the Ivory Coast? Hail Africa, the slavers have come. New England with Bibles and rum. Then it's off with the rum and the Bibles. Bring on the slaves, clink, clink. Then hail and farewell to the smell of the African coast. Molasses to rum to slaves. 'Tisn't morals, 'tis money that saves. Shall we dance to the sound of the profitable pound in molasses and rum and slaves? Who sails the ships out of Guinea, laden with Bibles and slaves? Who drinks a toast to the West Indies coast, Jamaica? Africa, we brung what you craves. Antigua, Barbados, we brung Bibles and slaves. Gentlemen, you mustn't think our northern friends merely see our black slaves as figures on a ledger. Oh no, they see them as figures on a block. Look at the faces at the auctions, gentlemen. White faces on African walls, seafaring faces, New England faces. Put them in the ships, cram them in the ships, stuff them in the ships. Hurry, gentlemen, let the auction begin. Yaha, yaha, makunda. You hear that, gentlemen? That's the cry of the auctioneer. Yaha, yaha, makunda. Slaves, gentlemen, black gold, living gold, gold from Angola. Guinea, Guinea, Guinea. Blackbirds for sale. Offshore tea. Evil, evil, evil. Blackbirds for sale. Handle them, fondle them, but don't finger them. They're prime, yaha.
For the love of God, Mr. Rutledge, please!
Molasses to rum to slaves. Who sails the ships back to Boston? Laden with gold, see it gleam. Whose fortunes are made in the triangle trade. Hail slavery, the New England dream. Mr. Adams, I give you a toast. Hail Boston. Hail Charleston. Who stinketh the most?
Don't worry, they'll be back.
Aye, to vote us down.
It's done! Adams, Franklin, I've got it. And the Maryland Assembly's approved it. I told them about one of the greatest military engagements in history against a flock of... What's wrong? I thought...
You'll have to forgive them, Mr. Chase. They've just suffered a slight setback. And after all, what is a man profited if he shall gain Maryland and lose the entire South? Matthew, chapter 16, verse 26.
Mr. McNair,
I know, the flies.
no. A wrong. Oh, on second thought, I'll go out and get it myself. Come on, Mr. Thompson. We can both get some fresh air and a drink.
Well, what are we all standing around here for? There's work to be done. We're wasting time, precious time. McKean, I want you to go back into Delaware and fetch back Caesar Rodney.
John, are you mad? It's 80 miles on horseback, and he's a dying man.
No, he's a patriot.
What good would it do? The South has done us in.
And if the South changes their mind, can we get Delaware without Rodney?
God, what a bastardly bunch we are.
Stephen.
I'm going to the tavern, Johnny. If I can do anything for you there, let me know.
What? Chase.
What's the use, John? The boat's tomorrow morning.
There's only one day left.
Roger.
Get it, John.
I'm sorry, John.
We've no other choice, John. The slavery clause has to go.
What are you saying, Franklin?
It's a luxury we cannot afford.
500,000 souls in chains, and Dr. Franklin calls it a luxury. Well, maybe you should have walked out with the rest of the South.
You forget yourself, sir. I founded the first anti-slavery society on this continent.
Don't you wave your credentials at me, Franklin. Maybe it's time you renewed them.
The issue here is independence. Maybe you've forgotten that fact, but I have not. How dare you jeopardize our cause when we've come so far? These men, no matter how much we might disagree with them, are not ribbon clerks to be ordered about. They are proud, accomplished men, the cream of their societies and their colonies, and they and the people they represent are going to be part of this new country you've hoped to create. Start learning to live with them or pack up and go home. In any case, stop acting like a Boston fish.
Good God. What's happened to me? The great John Adams, the wise man of the East. My law practice down the pike. My farm mortgaged to the hillside. At a time when most men prosper, I'm reduced to living in Philadelphia. Oh, Abby, what am I to do?
Do, John?
Yes, I need your help.
You don't usually ask my advice.
Yes, well, there doesn't seem to be anyone else around now, does there?
Very well then, John. What is it?
The entire South has walked out of Congress. George Washington's army is on the verge of total annihilation. This dream for which I've labored for all these years has come to nothing, and it seems that I am obnoxious and disliked.
Nonsense, John.
That I am unable to face reality.
Foolishness, John.
That I am pig-headed.
Well, there you have me, John. I'm afraid you are pig-headed.
Has it been any kind of life for you, Abby? God knows I haven't given you much.
Oh, I never asked for more. After all, I am Mrs. John Adams. That's quite a lot for one lifetime.
Yes, it's Abby.
Oh, think of it, John. To be married to the man who is always first in line to be hanged.
Yes, the agitator. Abby, I know I've always had discontentment. I know. Lately, I reek of this dissatisfaction, and it floods my brain and fills my soul, and sometimes I think that there's no longer the dream, but only this discontentment.
How can you know so little about yourself, John? And how can you think so little of me that you believe that I would marry the man you've just described? Have you forgotten what you used to say to me, John? I haven't. Commitment, Abby, commitment. There are two creatures of value on the face of this earth, those with a commitment and those that require the commitment of others. Do you remember, John?
I remember.
Mr. Adams?
What?
These are for you.
What's in them? Who sent them? What are they?
Compliments of the Concord ladies of the club, and the sisterhood of the Truro synagogue, and the Friday evening Baptist sewing circle, and the holy Christian sisters of St. Clair. All for you.
Go out and buy every damn pin in Philadelphia.
Pin? What sort of pin?
I don't know, the kind that women use in sewing circles. And take these to the armory and hurry, man. Franklin! Jefferson! Enough dawdling, there's work to do.
John, didn't you hear a word I said before?
I said there's work to be done, Franklin.
John, I'm not even speaking to you.
It's too late for that. Jefferson, I want you to talk about it. You're both Southern aristocrats. Gentlemen, if they listen to anyone, he'll listen to you. Franklin?
All right, John, what do you want me to do?
I want you to talk to Judge Wilson. Get him away from Dickinson. That's the only way. Just talk to him.
All right. I will do my best.
John, I'm still from Massachusetts. You know where I stand. I'll do whatever you say.
No, you're a fair man, Hancock. You're president of Congress. Stay that way. Out of curiosity, Mr. Thompson, do you stand with Mr. Dickinson or do you stand with me?
Well, I stand with the general. Lately, I've had the strangest feeling that he's been writing to me. I have been in expectation of receiving a reply on the subject of my last 15 dispatches. Is anybody there? Does anybody care? Does anybody care? Your humble and obedient.
Are you hungry, John?
No, I'll stay here.
Good night, then.
Is anybody there? Does anybody care? Does anybody see what I see? They want me to quit. They say, John, give up the fight. Still to England I say, good night, forever good night. For I have crossed the Rubicon. Let the bridge be burned behind me. Come, what may, come, what may. Commitment! The croakers all say you rule the day. They'll be held to pay in fiery purgatory. Through all the gloom, I can see the rays of ravishing light and glory. Is anybody there? Does anybody care? Does anybody see what I see? I see fireworks. I see the pageant and pomp and parade. I hear the bells ringing out. I hear the cannons roar. I see Americans, all Americans free forevermore. How quiet the chamber is. How silent the chamber is. Is anybody there? Does anybody care? know anyone was here.
I'm sorry if I startled you. I couldn't sleep. In trying to resolve my dilemma, I was reminded of something I had once read. That a representative not only owes his people his industry, but also his judgment. And he betrays them if he sacrifices one for the other. It was written by Edmund Burke, a member of the British Parliament.
Congress will now vote on Virginia's resolution on independence. Thank you for coming, Caesar, and God bless you, sir. Secretary will call the roll, and I remind you, gentlemen, a single nay vote will defeat the resolution. Mr. Thompson?
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire says yay.
New Hampshire says yay. Massachusetts.
Massachusetts says yay.
Massachusetts says yay. Rhode Island.
Rhode Island says yay.
Rhode Island says yay. Connecticut. Connecticut says yay. Connecticut says yay. New York.
Mr. Secretary, New York abstain. Courteous.
New York abstains.
Courteous.
New Jersey.
New Jersey says yay.
New Jersey says yay. Philadelphia. Pennsylvania.
Just a minute, Mr. Secretary. Pennsylvania's not yet ready. Would you come back to us, please?
Pennsylvania passes. Delaware.
Delaware, by majority vote, is yay.
Aye.
Delaware says yay.
Well done, sir.
Maryland.
Maryland says yay.
Maryland says yay. Virginia.
Virginia says yay.
Virginia says yay. North Carolina.
North Carolina yields South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Well, Miss Adams,
Oh, Mr. Rutledge.
Mr. Adams, you must believe that I will do as I have promised to do.
What do you want, Mr. Rutledge?
Remove the offending passage from the Declaration.
If we did that, then we would be guilty of what we ourselves are rebelling against.
Nevertheless, sir, remove it, or South Carolina will now and forever end your dream of independence.
John, I beg you consider what you're doing.
Mark my words, Franklin. If we give in on this, posterity will never forgive us.
That's probably true, but we won't hear a thing. We'll be long gone.
Oh, yeah, right.
And anyway, what will posterity think we were? Demigods? We're men, no more, no less. Trying to start a new nation under greater odds than a more generous God would have allowed. First things first, John. Independence. America. For if we don't secure those, what difference does the rest make?
Jefferson, say something.
What else is there to do?
Well, you're the man that wrote it.
I wrote all of it, Mr. Adams.
There you are, Rutledge. Have your slavery little good made to you. Now vote, damn you.
Mr. Secretary, the fair colony of South Carolina says yay.
South Carolina says yay.
North Carolina says yea.
North Carolina says yay. Georgia.
Georgia says yay.
Georgia says yay. Pennsylvania, second call.
Mr. President, Pennsylvania regrets all of the inconvenience that such distinguished men as Adams, Franklin, and Jefferson were put to just now. Might have kept their document intact for all the difference it will make. Mr. President, Pennsylvania.
Just a moment. I ask that the delegation be polled.
Dr. Franklin, don't be absurd.
A poll, Mr. President. It's a normal request.
It is. All the delegation, Mr. Thompson.
Dr. Benjamin Franklin.
Yay.
Mr. John Dickinson.
Nay.
Mr. James Wilson. Judge Wilson.
Well, there it is, Mr. Wilson. It's all up to you now. The entire question of American independence rests squarely on your shoulders. A brand new nation, Mr. Wilson, waiting to be born or to die, all on your say-so. Which is it to be? Every map maker in the world is waiting for your decision.
Come now, James. Nothing has changed. You must let Dr. Franklin create one of his confusions. The question is clear.
Most questions are clear when someone else has to decide them.
It would be a pity for a man who handed down hundreds of wise decisions to be remembered for the one unwise decision he made in Congress.
James, you're keeping everybody waiting. The secretary has called for your vote.
Please, don't push me, John. I know what you want me to do. But Mr. Adams is correct about one thing. I'm the one who will be remembered for it.
What do you mean?
I'm different from you, John. I'm different from most of the men in here. I don't want to be remembered. Just don't want the responsibility.
Yes, well, whether you want it or not, there's no way of avoiding it.
Not necessarily. If I vote with them, I'll only be one among dozens. No one will ever remember the name of James Wilson. But if I vote with you, I'll be the man who prevented American independence. Sorry, John. Just didn't bargain for that.
Is that how new nations are formed? By a non-entity trying to preserve the anonymity he so richly deserves?
Revolutions come into this world like bastard children, Mr. Dickinson. Half improvised and half compromised. Our side has provided the compromise, now Judge Wilson is providing the rest.
James.
I'm sorry, John. My vote is yay.
Pennsylvania says yay. The vote being 12-0 with one abstention, the resolution on independence is adopted.
Mr. Thompson, is the declaration ready to be signed?
It is.
I suggest we do so. The chair also proposes for our mutual safety and protection that no man be allowed to sit in this Congress without attaching his name to it.
I'm sorry, Mr. President. I cannot in good conscience sign such a document. I will never stop hoping for our eventual reconciliation with England. But because, in my own way, I regard America no less than does Mr. Adams, I will join the army, fight in her defense. I believe that fight to be hopeless. Goodbye, gentlemen.
Gentlemen of Congress, I say ye, John Dickinson.
Gentlemen, are there any objections to approving the declaration as it now stands?
I have one.
You, Mr. Adams?
Mr. Jefferson, as a matter of fact, the word is unalienable, not inalienable.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Adams, but inalienable is correct.
I happen to be a Harvard graduate, Mr. Jefferson.
And I attended William and Mary.
Gentlemen, please. Mr. Jefferson, will you yield Mr. Adams' request?
No, sir. I will not.
Oh, that's all right. I'll withdraw it.
It's good for you, John.
I'll speak to the printers about it later.
Very well, gentlemen. We are about to brave a storm. skiff made of paper. How will all end? Only God knows. Pretty large signature, Johnny. So Fat George in London can see it without his glasses. Well, gentlemen, step right on up. Don't miss your chance to commit treason.
Hancock is right. This paper is our passport to the gallows, but there's no backing out now. For if we do not hang together, we shall most assuredly hang separately.
And in my case, hanging won't be so bad. One snap and it'll be over just like that. But look at Reed there. He'll be dancing a jig long after I'm gone.
Gentlemen, forgive me for not joining in your merriment, but if we were arrested right now, my name's still the only one on the damn thing.
From the Commander, Army of the United Colonies in New York. Army of the United States. Dispatch number 1209. To the Honorable Congress, John Hancock, President. Dear Sir, I can now report with some certainty that the eve of battle in New York is near at hand. Toward this end, I have ordered the evacuation of Manhattan and directed our defenses to take up stronger positions on the Brooklyn Heights. At the present time, my forces consist entirely of Hazlitt's Delaware militia and Smallwood's Marylanders, a total of 5,000 troops to stand against 25,000 of the enemy. And I begin to notice that many of ours are lads under 15 and old men, none of whom could truly be called soldiers. One personal note to Mr. Lewis Morris of New York. I must regretfully report that his estates have been totally destroyed, but that I have taken the liberty of transporting Mrs. Morris and 8 of the children to safety in Connecticut. The 4 older boys are now enlisted in the Continental Army. As I write these words, the enemy is plainly in sight beyond the river. How it will end, only Providence can direct. But dear God, what brave men I shall lose before this business ends. Your obedient.
Mr. McNair, so ring the bell.
Mr. President,
Tomorrow.
to hell with you. I'll sign it anyways.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Stephen, you can sit down.
No. I want to remember each man's face as he signs.
Very well. Mr. Thompson.
New Hampshire, Dr. Josiah Bartlett. Massachusetts, Mr. John Adams. Rhode Island, Mr. Hopkins. Connecticut, Mr. Roger Sherman. New York, Mr. Lewis Morris. New Jersey, the Reverend Jonathan Witherspoon. Pennsylvania, Dr. Benjamin Franklin. Delaware, Mr. Caesar Rodney. Maryland, Mr. Samuel Chase. Virginia, Mr. Thomas Jefferson. North Carolina, Mr. Joseph Hughes. South Carolina, Mr. Edward Rutledge. Georgia, Dr. Lyman Hall.